What if Naruto was trained by four kunoichi? Mistress, stupid Uchiha loving Tem. Naruto thought for the 100th time. The day had been like any other, unfortunately. Flashback. He had arrived in the training ground 7, their usual meeting time as usual. After waiting a few hours for their sensei has finally arrived. After they listened to his lame excuse for the day, they took a D rank mission. How is pulling weeds a mission? Once they had finished, they did an hour of teamwork exercise. Well, Naruto tried to work with them. All he received was insults and punches to the head. Alright, that's enough training for the day, spoke their so-called sensei. Kakashi sensei, when are we going to learn a jutsu or take a real mission? Asked Naruto. Sorry, Naruto, but you are not ready for either. He spoke, not ever looking up from his book. You need to increase your chakra. How? He insisted. You haven't even taught us how. You'll figure it out. Try asking Sasuke or Sakura. They have good chakra control. He answered, or didn't, before he shunshed away. He turned to look towards his team in hopes of help. Unfortunately, they were preoccupied. Sasuke-kun, would you like to go on a date? Asked Sakura. No, he answered before walking away to broom more. I'll go on that date with you, Sakura-chan. Naruto tried. His response was a punch to the head. Why would I go on a date with you, Naruto Baka? Turning back, she ran after the Uchiha. Wait, he called, stopping her. Do you think you could help me with my chakra control? Why should I help you? She asked. It would do a dope. It wouldn't do a dope like you any good. You were a failure in the academy and you will be a failure as a ninja. With that, she walked off, leaving a hurt Naruto. Flashback end. As the memories continued to replay in his head, he came upon his destination. It was one of his favorite spots in a safe haven. It was one of the few he had away from the hateful villagers. It had a waterfall that flowed into a river that reached his knees. He would often fish here when he couldn't afford Ichiraku ramen. There was an empty field with a bit of wildlife. The field also held an array of plants and berries he liked. His favorite part of the large deep cave behind the waterfall. The water came inside, making a little pool. The rest was a dry place to rest. He would often hide or camp here when he needed or wanted to. It was practical because of this place. He hadn't starved. Why he had shelter when his home was wrecked by villagers, a home from home. He even had a small family here. Hey, I'm here, he called. As soon as the words left his mouth, he felt 4 light impacts to his chest. They didn't hurt, but it was enough to knock him over. As he tried to straighten himself out, he felt as they crawled around inside his jumpsuit. He quickly pulled them out and set them down. Not even a hello before you go looking for the treats, he asked in a mocked hurt. They lowered their heads in shame. He smirked, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a few pieces of dried fish. Once they laid their eyes on it, they dove for it. He sighed happily as he watched them eat. Fox says it was ironic that they were even his closest family. After the QB attack, foxes were illegal in Konoha. Most people would just kill them out of spite. That made it hard for them to survive since the villagers hated them. Not him. He happily did his best to help take care of them since they were disliked, hated for something they had no control over. The closest female was the oldest female was the mother. Her name was Aki. For her constant autumn coat. The oldest male was the father. His name was Gin. For the patch of silver on his head, it was more pronounced thanks to his black fur. The youngest son looked after his father. His fur was black with a silver collar. That's how he got the name Iruko. The oldest sister was Igeme. She didn't take after either parent. Her fur was a constant snow white. He decided to call her Midori, thanks to her grass green eyes. He then undressed as he laid himself into the stream, bracing his feet into rocks. He closed his eyes and relaxed. This way he wouldn't but stayed relaxed. He felt the foxes lay down beside him. He loved the flow of the water on his body, the feel of nature to his senses, the peace of seclusion. It was here that he could let his mask drop. "It's right over here, girls," came an unfamiliar female call that was heading towards him. "That's just not fair," he growled. He quickly grabbed his clothes and started putting them on. Once Naruto was dressed, he moved deeper into the cave with the foxes. It was one of the problems with being here. This place was practically blocked off. Once inside, there was no exit. Unfortunately, one way was occupied by whoever they were. He didn't want to have to run with whoever they were. Something told him they were ninja. He always was good at telling who was a civilian or not. These were definitely not. He sat and waited. "See, I told you, this entire place is great. And you're sure this place is away from any perverted eyes?" "Positive. I, I even have the triplets scout the area while we were here." "Relax, Nachan. If there's any perverts, we'll give them the beating of a lifetime. That doesn't stop them, and I think some are enjoying it." "Okay, there are 4 women, most likely kunoichi. Then there are triplets, maybe pets." He decided to move further into the cave. He really didn't want to be seen. Unfortunately, our blonde ninja forgot his bright attire. "Hey, who's in there? Show yourself." "What's wrong, Anko?" "Stay calm. Maybe they didn't see me. I saw a Heidi orange color. I think someone's in there. Damn it. Come on out." "Haha. Think the triplets can drag them out." "No need," he called. He took a deep breath and allowed his mask to reform as he motioned the foxes to hide. They slowly and cautiously made Then he slowly and cautiously made his way out. As he stepped out, he saw who caught him. Who are you, Gahin? The closest one asked. Naruto Uzumaki, the future Hokage, spoke on instinct. And who are you? I am the sexy and single Anko Midarashi. The first one spoke. Snake mistress of Konoha. I am Yugi Mizuku, Kenjutsu mistress of Konoha. The second one came. I am Kunoichi. I can't say the last name. The now named Anko seemed to urge her for more. Genjutsu mistress of Konoha. She continued with a sigh. I am Hana, started the second hound princess of Konoha. Yugu was a woman with purple and violet hair that came to her waist, and the chocolate brown eyes. She seemed to be wearing reddish purple lipstick. She was wearing a standard Ambu clothing. Something about her seems familiar. Kunoichi had a long black wavy hair, shoulders length hair. She seemed to be wearing an outfit that looked to be made of bandages. Her hand and upper thighs were wrapped in the same material. Her eyes were what stood out the most. They were odd but truly beautiful, a shade of red. She seemed familiar as well. Anko had a light brown, pupilless eyes. Her hair was black with a tint of violet, styled in a short, wild ponytail. She was wearing a trench coat that had a mesh bodysuit under it. Over it was a dark orange miniskirt. Never seen her before. Hana had long brown hair in a ponytail with two locks handling in front of her face. Her eyes were an average black. She had a light shade of pink-red lipstick and Inuzuka markings. She was wearing a Banki medic uniform. Those markings meant she was related to Kiba. Their headbands proved what he feared. They were all kunoichi. What are you doing here? Are you spying on us? Yugo asked. He didn't answer. How about we play with him? Offered Anko. We won't go all out. Just teach him a lesson for what he's done, Anko. He's a genin, stated Yugi. If he doesn't learn his lesson, how could he grow? He could grow worse than Dryas, stated Kunoichi. None of them denied that. Besides, he'll just heal. The truth was, she didn't care about that. She just wanted the boy to suffer for what he did. Tell your friends to come out as well, orders Hana. What friends? I'm here alone, he lied. My companions here say they smell, stated Hana. Bring them, or they'll be dragged out. Naruto stood defiantly. Just do it, Hana, called Anko. The Gahi is too stubborn to listen. What is a Geshus? With a gesture, one of the triplets were making their way towards the cave entrance. Not wanting his friends to get hurt, Naruto stood in front of the approaching canine. He glared at the dog with such intensity that it actually started to whimper. After a few more seconds, he ran back behind Hana and his siblings. Uncle, seeing the distraction, decided to have a little fun. She threw a kunai. Thanks to all of his years of living through the hate of Konoha, Naruto gained an extra sense. It was one that warned him of danger. It was warning him now. Duck He, ducking his head, he avoided the kunai. As he stood right, he let a slender but powerful arm wrap around him, his neck holding his neck still. Struggle as he might, he couldn't get free. "Hold him tight, Anko," he heard one of the women shout, as the triplets will drag whoever's in there out. "Wait," he begged. He didn't want his only friends to be hurt because of him. "Don't hurt them." "Them?" asked Kurenai. "Go get them, boys," Hana ordered. As the triplets closed the entrance, Anko decided to have a little more fun. "Whoever's in there is in for a world of pain." Leaning towards his weird, she whispered, "Right, Foxy-kun?" At hearing his name, his blood ran cold. They know about the QB. That's why they're here." It was replaced by boiling rage. Using a little chakra control he had directed to his arms, with all the power he could muster, he pried Anko's arms open. He broke free, spinning in a full 180. He kicked Anko in the stomach. The blow didn't harm her, but it was enough to stun her. To say the kunoichi and the dogs were shocked would be an understatement. Anko was a Junin, a special Junin perhaps, but a Junin all the same. To see a mere Genii force his way free was truly amazing. Putting his hands in a cross form, he shouted his signature technique, Shadow Clone Jutsu. At the name, 10 solid clones appeared. They took protective stance in front of the cave. "So little Gahi no wants to play, huh?" Anko asked. "Well, let's play." Charging forward, Naruto threw 2 exploding tags towards the women. As they scattered to avoid the explosion, the clones charged. "This is getting out of hand," spoke Yugi as she dodged another kunai. "We have to restrain him." They nodded in agreement. "Hey, Runt," Hana called. "You're not the only one with moves." Waving her clan's hand signs, she called, "Beastman clone." At the Yeah, sorry about that. After waving more signs, Beastman clone. At the name, their brothers jumped onto her sides and went up in smoke. When they were visible, it was revealed they took form. After weaving more signs, they all dropped to 4s. Ninja art, Beastman mimicry, all 4 jutsu. They charged forward before jumping into the air. Multi-fang, fang over fang. All 4 Hanas began to spin, taking a blurry drill-like form. The attack began to rotate around each other as they charged forward. They tore through the clothes. Naruto saw the direction of the attack. They were heading towards the cave. He knew what he had to do. Thinking he would just jump out of the way, the Hanas pressed the attack. To surprise her, he only put his arms up to defend himself. He stood defiantly. "He'll move," she thought as did the rest. "He'll move. He'll jump away. Move already." He did it. "Move, you baka," Hana called, but he didn't, and it was too late to stop their attack. Each Hana hit Naruto full on. They tore through his clothes and his body. He fell to his knees, bleeding. Once the attack ended, the real Hana turned to ask why he took the attack, or at least tried to. As soon as she turned, she saw a kunai fly past her, a kunai with a tag. Each Hana barely had enough time to cover themselves in a coat of chakra. It was enough to save them from the explosion. The blast knocked them each far back in a different direction. They had transformed back and were unconscious before they hit the door. Naruto would have continued if it weren't for Anko, striking shadow clone snakes. Multiple snakes ejected themselves from Anko's sleeve. Turning, he was able to see the attack, but not dodge it. The snakes each coiled around his limbs, variously parts of his body. Each snake then latched onto Naruto with their fangs. He felt the burning sensation as the venom spread through his body. The poisons in these snakes aren't lethal, but they cause great pain, stated Anko cheerfully. To her continued amazement, Naruto had more surprise. Using his very will and chakra, he moved his hands together. She herself added chakra to strengthen her technique, but it wasn't enough. Not when facing a host of a tailed beast. This genin had more chakra than even me. Shadow clone jutsu, summoning 4 clones, he smirked. Kunoichi Genjutsu, ordered Yaku. Now, Kunoichi began weaving. Each drew a kunai and cut through the snakes, freeing the original. They gave a cry as they rushed forwards. Anko drew another 2 kunais and took aim. Not knowing which was the real one, Anko threw them towards non-lethal spots. They both hit their mark. The first clone dispelled. The second hit Naruto's upper leg. It embedded itself deep, drawing blood. The pain was only intensified from the venom. Anko cried. You stop my genjutsu before it's set in. Oops. Sorry about that, Nichan, apologized she sheepishly. Snake mistress. He continued forward, but not losing speed. With one limp, he flinched slightly and showed he was hurt. The remaining 2 of them proceeded to Himura into the demon windmill. Shurikens. Looking at his opponents, he took aim. Needed to get rid of the biggest threat. With a spinning belt of momentum, he threw it with all his might. It flew past the snake mistress and Kenjutsu mistress. He was aiming for Kunoichi. She had to admit she was impressed. Naruto was holding his own. He even managed to take out Hana and the triplets. Turning her head, she let out a giant weapon fly past her. She never noticed it graze her cheek, but it was not enough. The shadow windmill again flew right past her, lodged itself into a tree. It dispelled itself a second after contact. Kunoichi asked, a hesitant, "Are you okay?" In her confusion, she felt a warm, moist drip down her cheek. Bringing her hand, she felt the spot and pulled her hand back. There was a light stinging sensation. She looked at her hand. Blood. The getting. It was real, she stated in shock. A real illusion. That should be completely impossible. Even the sum of the greatest genjutsu users in the world can't make a real illusion. Naruto prepared the second shuriken. As he prepared to throw it, something clamped down and stopped his arm painfully. It caused Naruto to drop and dispel his clone. Looking at what stopped him, he saw one of the triplets had latched its fang around his arm. He felt a second lashed into one of his legs. The final blow came from Hana herself. She tackled Naruto from behind, pinning him under her legs. She held a kunai to his throat, forcing him to be still. "I've had enough of this," she snarled. "We'll find out who you're hiding." As soon as the words left her mouth, a final brother stepped forward out of the cave. Naruto saw the dog in the mouth horrified him. It made his blood go cold in his very veins. It was the foxes. The dogs dragged their bodies out by their tails. "No, no," he pleaded. "This can't be happening. Not them." "No, Ika again," Iroko, Midori. When they didn't respond, his fear was taken. In its place, he was given hatred. He was raw and uncontrolled hatred. It was so much that even he started to pull on chakra from the Kyuubi. This isn't good, the kunoichi thought as one. They didn't know what to do as they watched the red chakra become visible. All they wanted to do was punish a pervert. Now things were truly out of hand. He knocked Hana and the two triplets off by simply standing. There were burn marks on them as well from the Kyuubi's corrosive chakra. He dashed to the family of foxes. When the remaining triplets saw the approaching Naruto, it dropped the foxes and fled. As he kneeled down to calm himself, the Kyuubi chakra began to disappear. He was angry but not blind. He saw what happened to Hana and her dogs. "Come on, you guys, get up," he pleaded. He wanted his family to be okay. "Come on, you guys. You are all I have." They didn't move. They just lay there unmoving and lifeless. He reached for them but pulled back away when his blood fell on them. He didn't want to let Kyuubi's influence touch them. He turned his attention back to his attackers. They flinched at the level of hate in his gaze. He felt both rage and Kyuubi's chakra return with a vengeance. It was more potent. You could have even seen a fox's head grin at them. "Damn it, he's drawing on the fox. And Hana is out. No choice. Everyone, we need to end this. No more holding back," spoke Kurenai. "I have a distraction." "Come on," Naruto shouted. "I'll take you all on." Anko went first, jumping high into one of the trees. She yelled. Multiple striking shadow snakes. As the name said, multiple snakes flew towards him, much more than the first time. However, they weren't aimed for him. They were aimed for the foxes. He rushed back to their side and to take the blow. As the snakes hit him dead on, it seemed that the massive of them consumed Naruto and the foxes. With a mighty roar, he sent out shock waves of chakra. It tore through the massive snakes, leaving only shreds behind. He stood there, falling apart, not losing an ounce of hate, Not even uttering a command before forming signs, a clone popped into existence. As soon as it formed, it became another windmill shuriken. Giving it a mighty heave, he threw it towards Kurenai. She made to dodge it, but didn't count on its angle. To her surprise, it turned as she did, cleaving her in half. Kurenai, cried Yugatu, in disbelief before schooling herself. You're an Ambu, control yourself, Yaguto, cried Hana. They could use some help now. Running forward, the Kenjutsu mistress tried to perform her named snake. As she came in range, she raised the weapon high in the air. She attempted to knock him unconscious with her stealth. As she came into striking distance, Naruto made his move. Stretching his arm out, he grabbed her arm, adding pressure to her wrist and forced her to lower her sword. But she didn't drop it, but it was enough grabbing the stealth. He yanked it free. Holding the blade stealth, he took a stance. He then started hacking away at her, or would have. Thanks to the years of practice, she was ready. She was able to dodge or block every single strike. His stance formed are great, she thought, for an amateur. He must have a great teacher, if only she knew. Unfortunately, it was because of the experience that she didn't what she did. Out of pure instinct, she dropped back and lashed at him. She cut across the eye, causing a short grunt, probably ruining it permanently, but it didn't stop him. He was too angry to feel any pain, not that he would have anyway. He stopped suddenly. Something was holding him in place. Looking at the restraints, he saw vines. He struggled against them. He even hit the shed, but they just carried him off the ground. Now he had no leverage. String being bind illusion, looking towards the one who named the attack. He saw a giant bean pod. As it opened, Kurenai stepped out. This is a genjutsu from the Kurana clan. You won't be getting out of that easily. What are you doing? Asked an aged but powerful voice. Release him. They turned to see the voice. Standing before them was the Hokage, and he was angry. Kurenai stepped forward. Hokage-sama, she was cut off. That was an order, he stated. She did as she was told. As soon as he was free, he charged Kurenai with a powerful jab. He struck her in the stomach with the sheath. He continued charging, painfully pushing Kurenai along the dirt. Coming to a sudden stop, he drew the sheath back. Kurenai dropped to her knees, gasping in pain. Raising the sheath, he brought it down across her face. She was out cold, hitting the ground. He prepared another strike when he felt a familiar sensation of fangs biting into him. We're done here, Genin, stated Anko. Dropping the sheath, he grabbed two of the snakes. With a mighty heave, he pulled Anko free from him. But he didn't stop there. He kept pulling, and with a spin aimed her, crashed into face first the downed Hana. Turning, he looked towards Hyuga, and then there was one. He stated coldly, "That won't be necessary, Naruto-kun." Turning to the voice, he saw a rush of red and white wind, 5-pronged seal. He felt an intense pain in his stomach where he had been struck. As the chakra faded, so did his consciousness. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was my first what if. Can you guys tell me how I did? And if you guys liked it, I'll just need one like to continue the story. And thanks for listening.